Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is the introductory. I want to let you guys know who you are going to be listening to, who you're talking to, if you guys even care to know about me. So I am currently an active duty sailor stationed in Great Lakes. I'm a canine handler for the Navy. I have been a plant lover probably since I was little. I started really collecting when I got my own place back in 2019. And I started collecting kind of like your bare minimum plants, kind of like your snake plant, your monstera, your bird of paradise, pretty like easy going plants. I even had a fiddle fig, which we'll go deep into that one day. But I've always loved plants. I've always loved house plants. I recently had a foot surgery, and so I've kind of been down, haven't been going to work due to the healing process of this. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, what can I do that's going to make me happy, where I get to really involve my plants, because that's kind of where the source of my happiness comes from. So I was sitting there and I was like, man, I'm just going to create a YouTube channel, because I post stories all the time on all my socials about my new plants, where I've got them, who to go to, hiding them from my fiance. I mean, it is all around. I post it all the time. So I'm like, why stop there? Why not upload it to YouTube and make it something that is even more, maybe could be more one day. So I really, it's so weird getting on here and like kind of like openly talking like out loud, but I had a lot of plants in 2019, probably about 50, and I was a waitress, and COVID hit and my job was kind of in the line now. So the income that I had wasn't as stable as it used to be, because all the restaurants were shutting down, and I was having these like kind of like, not like midlife crisis obviously, but it felt like, oh my god, like what if this happens again to me? Because the restaurants eventually opened back up, you know, but I wasn't making the money I used to. People coming in were not as friendly as they used to be, and I'm a pretty like, I'm a charmer, you know, I know how to make my money, I know how to make people happy and content at a restaurant. But the whole atmosphere changed once COVID came in, and I didn't want to be put in that situation again where I was having to get stimulus money and unemployment due to restaurants shutting down, because I ended up taking a hit the next year in taxes because I was getting all this money from the state to support me while the restaurants were shut down, because that was kind of all I did for years while going to school. So I had this moment, and I had always thought about going in the military. I was 22 at the time, so I was going to school trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. But I started talking to a Navy recruiter. I actually started talking to a Marine recruiter at first. I went through the whole process of that, got a tattoo removed, lost a bunch of weight, and then I ended up switching the name of the game and went the Navy route. So I ended up getting the job that I wanted originally, which was Master at Arms, and I got shipped out in like 15 days. So I had 15 days to get all my stuff out of my old apartment, get rid of all my plants, store my stuff somewhere, which thank God my family is super supportive, so majority of my stuff was handled, but I had 15 days to do all that. So 15 days to kind of live my life completely until I shipped off. So I ended up leaving September 15th, went up to MEPS, and then got to Great Lakes, but we ended up going to like Fort McCoy or whatever. But so I was in Great Lakes for boot camp for however long. Our boot camp was like off the wall different than like your normal boot camp, because during COVID, like they couldn't talk to us, they couldn't touch our gear, they couldn't do anything because of the limitations, right? So ended up doing that, graduated, instantly went to Texas, Lackland, Texas, and completed the Master at Arms school, which is about 2.5 to 3 months. I don't really recall the whole thing. And then I got selected as K9, and I have been a K9 officer in Great Lakes, because I went from boot camp in Great Lakes to Texas to do my schooling, and then right back to Great Lakes. So currently I'm stationed here. I have been here since May of 2021. And once I got to my first apartment, which was like, I needed an apartment quick. I just got here. I can't live in the barracks. So got my little place. It was very small, like 600 square feet. I had an occasional plant here and there. It wasn't a lot of space. Like, it was so small that if you were standing in the middle of the room. You could see everything that you owned from this one little spot. And it was kind of in our it wasn't like in a rough area, but it wasn't like safe to walk your dog at night, if you know what I mean. So I moved out of there. I met my fiance, Dylan, and we ended up moving into base housing in Glenview. And so this place is huge. It's like 900 square feet, very tall ceilings, lots of light. My other place did not have a lot of light. It was like a bottom, like cubby, literally felt like the cave that I feel that I live in majority of the time. But this house has so many windows. At first I was planning to stay in, so I felt like it was kind of bad to keep all of my plants, like keep gathering plants, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna stay in and I can't bring them with me, and then it's just gonna be a nightmare to sell. Well, when I met my fiance, Dylan, I really had this like moment of truth, like I don't really think I want to stay in. I just want to I want to do my time, get my degree, get out, and then now we're planning to move to Montana. I get out in 2024, September 2024. And so I have like a year left. But once I realized that I wasn't staying in, I did subconsciously tell myself that it was okay if I kept buying more plants, because it's like, whatever, like I'm not staying in, we're just gonna move. We are moving to Montana, the westmost side of Montana. And I told Dylan that all my plants are coming with me, because a lot of these plants I've had for a couple years or that I've really invested into. So I have some plants that I really did invest like a big chunk of my money. So like I have my albos, I have strawberry shakes, I have white knights, white princesses, and then I have so much, right? So I started getting kind of like deep into the hobby of houseplants, right? I have my basic, pride and joys, like my ones that anybody can buy, and it's not gonna cost an arm and a leg. And then I have some ones that are they're like collectors, right? But my goal is to open my own little plant shop when I get to Montana, because I want to get a degree in something that's going to support a business, because I don't want to live my whole life going to school and not really knowing if that thing's going to make me happy. But I do know for one that plants make me happy, and I love giving plants away. I like trading plants. So I was like, man, what hobby can I make a career? And this is it. I can open my own plant shop. I can use my own collection to just start off doing something online. But it's not even that. I just genuinely love talking plants. I love associating with plants. I love talking to other plant lovers. I like to see where their plants are, where like when people go all around the world and you see like how plants thrive in certain areas. I love that. And I really started getting deep into that when I got to Illinois, because it is so populated here. There's so many people everywhere. And that means there's more people just like me that like plants. Like this is their pride and joy. This is where their hobby pertains. This is where our money goes to. And I always tell people that I could be doing worse things, so it's all right. But so anyways, so when I got to Illinois, the atmosphere of plant loving was so much bigger than it was in Virginia. Virginia was just kind of, I remember it wasn't huge. Like you go to your like local nursery, like we had one that I would go to all the time, and they had some houseplants, a lot of succulents, obviously. So I was more of a succulent collector back before the Navy, but now I am everything. So I started getting into these groups all over the Chicago area, Glenview, Northbrook, Schaumburg, everywhere. So I started going to these like plant trades, right? And I had a little table set up, and I was thriving. I was trading, talking to people, like really digesting all the plant lovers that were coming up to our cars. Cause like basically here in Illinois, they have these trade-offs where you can like pop up your hood or your trunk, not your hood. I mean, if you want to help me fix my car, that's okay too. But basically I have a 4Runner, and I popped open my trunk, and my trunk was like my roof. I had a little table, had it all set up. I was like, literally, this was like second nature. Like this is the first time I've ever did it. And I had everything like from cuttings to whole plants to supplies, dirt, leca, everything. And I just really loved how that made me feel and all the people that I met, because sometimes you feel like there's no one else like you. And then you get into that situation, you're like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. There's so many people like this. So basically, I want to come on here. I feel like I have a lot of knowledge to spread, a lot of like quirky kind of tips that I've learned along the way. Like I said, my parents always had plants throughout the house. It was like literally a jungle. Like I remember going through like the entranceway and just having to push the plants out of the way because they were just everywhere. So I remember wanting to be like them when I grew up. Like, oh, I want to have all these plants. I want to have all these things. And I am them, but much worse. You know, they came up to visit me for leave probably about a month ago, and they gave me a compliment. They're like, hey, you got a lot of plants, but it's kind of organized. And I think that's a compliment, because I think a lot of people will get a bunch of plants and they'll just pile them up, which I'm gonna get there, right? We're gonna get there, but right now it's kind of, I would say it's poetic how they're set up now. But I'm very crafty. I love making stuff for my plants. I love things from decorations to hanging styles to making my own soil, doing compost that will help my plants from the garden side to the houseplant side. So I have a lot of stuff that I really want to pass on to people because, one, I'm a very good talker. I like to talk. So I could sit here forever and talk about nonsense, but I think that people will really enjoy having this almost like dumbed down version of how to understand houseplants, because I also started from nothing when it comes to houseplants. I didn't know what I was doing. I was buying crazy plants that I did not have any right to be buying. I will literally tell you, the first plant I got was this fiddle fig tree that I was obsessed with. And it was about, I think it was like 7 foot tall. And I have another one up here now that I know how to take care of. But that was my first plant. That plant caused me nightmares. Literally, it was the hardest plant. It's still one of the harder plants to take care of. They're very finicky. They're very priss-pot. Like you have to wipe off their leaves pretty consistently. They like the wind blowing on them. I mean, it is, I feel like I have another kid. And I got 2 dogs, you know. They are in itself enough to take care of, and then you add on this fiddle fig who literally will openly disrespect me if I don't do the right regimen for it. But long story short, guys, I really just have so many cool like things that I've done, and I have people, you know, on my socials that like obviously enjoy it, because a lot of people don't get into houseplants because they are a lot. You know, once you have this much and this quantity of plants, it does become like a whole second like part-time job. Like I spend about 2 hours, probably about every week, doing maintenance, watering, pruning, blah, blah, blah. I also have an IKEA greenhouse that I created for my birthday this year. And it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work, Miss Ma'am. I mean, I was a full-time student, full-time active duty sailor, and I was over here having like a whole plant shop that I was not selling. There was no money coming in. I was simply just having plants. But I have gone to so many areas in Illinois and bought so many exotic plants, and I've also bought some like crazy plants that people are just getting rid of. I mean, I'll drive 2 hours for a plant if someone's selling it for cheap. So I am very dedicated in the plant world. I think we all have that little bit of craziness in us. If you guys are watching plant videos, if you guys are getting involved with it, I've gotten to the point now where I'm like making my own plant stands because my plants are getting so big and so like they're just getting thick, you know? So I was getting all these plant stands like this one right here from all these like big box stores, and my little plants, my big old thick plants were not taking it well. So I've gone to the point where I'm like making stands out of wood. I'm making my own hanging like pieces of driftwood that are hanging all my plants on the window frame, which I can't use because my big dogs jump up and grab my plants from the hook. So right now it's just a really cool piece of wood with a bunch of decorations on it. But it really is such a wonderful world to like dive into. And I think everybody always looks for that connection with other people. And you know, look, I love people, but there's also things that I'm just like, not interested in. But I know that everyone likes connecting with people that have that same hobby. Like I'll tell you straight up, I was in World of Warcraft. It's a game on a computer, probably for a majority of my middle school and high school, like I say career, but that like step of my life. And that was like the topic of my conversation for like literally 10 years, right? And now I found something that is different, and I love the connection you can have with people with these things. And it's like almost like, it's almost like having friends that you didn't know you really wanted, but you have, and you guys can connect about plants and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm really excited to see where this goes. I hope you guys can tag along and see my journey with just recording myself and kind of having like a plan and not being like all over the place, which normally I am all over the place. But you guys subscribe, please tag along, tell me what you guys are interested in seeing. I'm going to do some tours of my house and kind of show you what's going on. I am currently riding on a scooter since my foot just got operated on, but I definitely want you guys to see what I got going on in my house and kind of like pick my brain about things. But I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Please subscribe and tune in for future videos.